Hey guys, it's Sunday, August 28th, 2022, and today I want to talk about a plane crash that recently happened. The whole internet's kind of buzzing about it. I know this is not my normal deal doing crash investigation, but we're going to deviate from the funny for a while and dive into this one because it's important that you know about the chain of events that occurred that caused the unfortunate loss of life when this Gippsland GA8 air van went down in the Indian Ocean. So the FAA initial report is out, and the preliminary causes noted as pilot incapacitation followed by the failed attempt of passengers to land the plane on a sandbar in the ocean. While I don't have any time in this plane or planes like this, and I don't know anything about the pilots, the passengers, the weather, the geographical location, or really any of it, I do believe I'm fully qualified to explain exactly what happened in this crash because I am a pilot and I have a YouTube channel. Hey guys, so I know this isn't normally my deal, but let's jump into it anyway. The particular crash I'm talking about is the one you guys are all probably reading about on the internet. It was Wyman Flight 227, crashed into the Indian Ocean. There was just a comedy of errors. There was the pilot passed away halfway through the flight, forcing the passengers to try to not only fly but land the plane. There's some issues with some instrumentation that was not working. There was a fuel leak. There's weather. It was just a chain. All crashes are a chain of events. I don't know if it's good news or bad news, but these guys had a lot of cameras. I know all of us kind of fly with cameras, and I guess that's the unfortunate thing is it's good because we know what happened, but it's bad because we get to see it. So if you are easily bothered by this type of thing, you might want to find a different video. Flight 227 was supposed to be a short chartered flight to get a couple of folks to a wedding. It was the aircraft is a Gippsland GA8 air van, similar to a Caravan but a little bit smaller, and it was supposed to be a 1-hour flight, no big deal. First link in the accident chain is we have a pilot who's clearly unhealthy. There's some video footage we found where you can see the pilot's visibly sick and agitated and actually taking some medication. It's very obvious the two passengers on board are very concerned about this pilot. They're trying to help him get some medicine, get some water so he can take some medicine. Unfortunately, it doesn't work out. It looks like the pilot suffered a heart attack early in the flight, leaving Sarah and Jackson, I think the names of these two individuals were, to try to fly the plane. Unfortunately, when Mr. Wyman passed away, he did lean forward, pressing the yoke forward, which caused the plane to pitch down, and basically some things went flying around the airplane and some instrumentation was damaged, and that's going to cause some problems. Sarah, who has flown planes before with Mr. Wyman when she was young, basic just kind of sitting there doing the kind of thing that you would do with a friend or a kid, kind of knew how to hold the plane straight and level, but all the navigation equipment seems to have been destroyed, and so they didn't really know where they were going. They tried to do some pilotage by doing some math and calculating where they thought they needed to go. In the end, as we know, it didn't work out. So like I said, every accident is a chain of events. We have a pilot who's passed away, we have instrumentation that's damaged, and then we started noticing that we're low on fuel. And why are we low on fuel? Well, we're flying and we're burning fuel, but also it was determined that there was a fuel leak. And what do you do when there's a fuel leak? Same thing any one of us would do. You go to the back of the plane, open the door, and climb out with duct tape. He was smart enough, at least, to have a good sturdy rope to wrap around himself, so in the event that he got sucked out, which we know happens, or accidentally slipped and fell off the plane, the rope would be able to hold him. So very, very forward thinking. He was able to get up under the cowl. And I've done this a handful of times. It's not that difficult. It can be scary because the propeller's spinning so fast and there's a lot of wind. I don't think they were going all that fast because there's a lot of verbal communication between Sarah and Jackson. She's inside, he's outside, doing the cowling thing with the duct tape. He does manage to stop the fuel leak, and trying to get back into the plane, he struggled a little bit and slipped a couple of times, but he had the rope. So, he's at least going to be okay for that part. So the fuel leak stopped, which means now we're burning fuel at a slower rate, which is fantastic. So Sarah and Jackson now just need to focus on trying to find a place to put the airplane down safely. Now the couple is trying to scan and look everywhere for some place that they can land the plane. They're trying to navigate. From all of the found footage, it appears like they were completely lost and unaware of really how dire the situation was. At one point, they decided that they were going to do an about face and do a 180-degree turn, which is what probably anybody would do, is go back. Unfortunately, a very scary, massive thunderstorm had popped up behind them. Like this, it can happen in an instant. What they decided to do was fly through it, but they're not pilots, so they don't know that you shouldn't fly through a thunderstorm. It was kind of scary. There was a lot of diving and climbing. You could hear in their voices how scared they were, in spite of the fact that the microphones were about a foot away from their mouths. These are really good David Clark headsets. They just pick up audio. And that's not the point. So Sarah decides, you know what? She knows enough about flying. She's going to try to climb over the top of the storm. She manages to get the plane on top of it, which is fantastic. But then, as you know, once you get above about 10,000 feet, you get really high. And so she's stoned out of her mind and realizes it's time to go back down into the storm. So the unfortunate side effect of all of this is we're burning fuel and we're running really, really low on fuel, and Sarah's starting to get panicked. Most of the footage, she seemed to be pretty cool and calm and collected. Once we see the fuel tank is getting really close to empty, I guess the smart thing is Sarah realizes, she can switch the tank. And this particular aircraft actually has a modern fuel system where when you switch the tanks, as you can see here, the tank starts to refuel itself.
Wait, I think I can switch between the tanks.
So the good thing is these are smart people. Every time a situation goes bad, they get in there and they figure out how to make it better. So when I was going through the video footage that a source of mine gave me, I noticed something that kind of bothered me a little bit. I think Mr. Wyman, the owner of the plane, may have gotten scammed when he bought some of his instrumentation. This is the King 155. It's a radio, but I know this particular model they bought off wish.com. You can see the frequency is a 138, which is not a frequency. My understanding is these only go up to 136. Check my math on that. The other thing I notice is the transponder. While it does have a squawk code, it appears that it's just painted on and not any, the buttons are just drawn. So I don't know if perhaps some of the instrumentation that he bought was, that these scams are going around right now, and maybe unfortunately Mr. Wyman was a victim of a scam. So we now have the fuel leak. We have gone through the storm. We've almost run out of fuel, and now we're running out of fuel again. Well, when you start running out of fuel, one of the things you need to do is figure out how to make your airplane lighter so you can fly further. What you want to do is open the door, being careful again because of, and so we just want to throw everything overboard. If it's seats, we pull those out. If it's bags, if it's Mr. Wyman, just out the plane, throw them out. So that will reduce the fuel burn. Now that the plane is empty, with the exception of Jackson and Sarah and a crate of rum, hopefully the plane will burn less fuel and be able to go further. Unfortunately, Sarah notices that we're still continuing to burn fuel as engines do, and we're running out of ideas. Sarah's pretty forward thinking and remembers that although they threw everything out of the plane except these bottles of rum that they were going to bring to this wedding, which was the purpose of the whole chartered flight, she has the idea that she can go outside the plane and pour the rum inside. It's to say we've all done it. It's a pretty like common thing. And Sarah, not being it's because she's not a pilot. Why would she know to do this? Like you and I know to do this. We're pilots. Put the rum in the gas tank and go. So what she does, she climbs out on this. She doesn't have the rope though. So I'm not sure if that was dumb or brave or just an oversight. She does climb out onto the top of the wing of the aircraft. And Jackson, who's sitting in the pilot seat now, is passing her bottles through the open door. He's handing her the bottles. She's cork into the gas tank. It works. Of course it works. You know it works. I know it works. We all know that's going to work just perfectly. It turns out low lead is like ethanol. It's the same as rum. That's Captain Morgan. So now the problem's solved. We're back in the plane and we're flying. Everything's great. They need a place to land. Jackson at one point thinks he sees an island. And from the GoPro footage, I would have thought it was an island too. It was small, but it looked like something. At that point, I would probably have attempted to land on it as well. So they do some math and decide they're going to go back before this engine runs out of gas and try to land on this island. Unfortunately, this is kind of where the story ends. It's not an island. It's a little tiny sandbar. And when it's too late, basically the engine does die. And unfortunately, they put the plane down in the ocean. It flips upside down. And as you can see here, they drown. And this is when their GoPros went out, and it's the end of the footage. So I guess the important takeaway here is when you have a chain of events like this, you want to recognize the first or most early link because once you get so far down a path, you're not going to come back. And that's when you're throwing pilots out of the plane, putting alcohol in your tanks and crashing into the water in front of a sandbar. It happens all the time. And that's why this crash is so important that we talk about it, because it could happen to anybody. It could happen to me. It could happen to you. All right, so that's the end of this video. I appreciate you guys watching. Thanks everyone who supports the channel. I'm going to go ahead and continue this series. There's another plane that went down I think we have to talk about. It was a plane that was transporting some prisoners, and they got a little bit rowdy. The pilots, as often happens, became incapacitated, and there was a very long and complicated crash through a big city. So that one we need to talk about too, because these things can happen, and I want to keep you guys safe. So thanks to everyone who supports the channel. Thank you, Gold Seals, sponsors, Patreons, everybody. Really, really appreciate it. You guys fly safe, and I'll catch you in the next one. Click this link to see the most recent video upload. Click this link to see a video that YouTube thinks you might like. Click this link to subscribe to my channel.